Hello students. So as we move on with the module number 2, so once we know what are the phase diagrams, how we construct the phase diagram, interpretation of the phase diagram, we'll know how an alloy or the solidification of a pure metal is going to happen. So it is very important to know the nucleation and the growth of an alloy or of a liquid metal in a various conditions. So till now we were talking about nucleation of different sites at the grain boundary and in a liquid metal, and now we need to know what are the conditions which are favorable in order to get nucleated and that nucleus to grow into further like a grains and defining a grain boundary. So whenever we talk about a solidification, a liquid will solidify into a solid on cooling. On cooling means the temperature should decrease. Okay, so this process is going to take place. You can see here a pure metal. Okay, so this temperature normally is a melting point. Okay, and so above the melting point, the metal or maybe the alloy will be in a liquid form. Okay, so once it comes down as the temperature decreases, so once it reaches to the freezing temperature, so the liquid starts converting into the solid. Okay, so that is what we call as a latent heat. So latent heat here is liberated. Okay, so whenever we are converting solid into a liquid, there the latent heat is absorbed. Okay, so here, so when it freezes from liquid to the solid, it liberates the latent heat. Okay, so that latent heat is utilized to form new surface as well as new atomic bonds. Okay, so only the temperature remains constant here, and once the whole liquid transforms into the solid, again the temperature starts decreases. Okay, so this whatever the curve we call as a temperature and enthalpy curve, so which gives at various temperature with respect to the time and enthalpy, that is amount of heat liberated, so we can easily find what are the different phases which are present at that moment. Okay, so this is for a pure metal where we are having only a one metal, say A or a B. Okay, so if we are going to have an alloy, then the melting point of the components, so which is say for example A plus B, the melting point of A is a different and B is a different. So according to that one, so at this temperature, that is a TL, so one metal starts solidifying. You can see it here. Okay, so as the temperature starts dropping down, so these nucleated solid will further grow. Okay, so and if there is a TS temperature, okay, so that is a solidification temperature, so the whole solid will grow further grow and it will be defined into the grains and a grain boundary. Okay, so that's how exactly, so you can see the difference between a solidification process for a pure metal and an alloy. Okay, so in order to understand the solidification process in a pure metal or alloys, so there are two stages. One is nucleation of a minute crystal. Say if you have a mold cavity and if you are going to pour a molten metal into that one, so there should be favorable conditions, so where the nucleations are going to start, or nucleation of a minute crystals are going to start, and those nucleus will further grow by giving rise to the grains and defining a grain boundary. So the first step is a nucleation. So how exactly these things are going to happen, so we'll see. So next, growth of these crystals into a grains. So as I said, once a cluster of atoms, means the atoms of a same energy level will come together and they will form a cluster. So these cluster of atoms are defined with a radius, that is a critical radius. So if this cluster of atoms reaches to that critical radius, then it will further grow. If not, again these atoms will dissolve into the liquid metal until there is a favorable condition for a nucleation. So how these are going to happen, so we'll see one by one. So first thing is very important to know what is exactly a nucleation. So this is a starting point of a solidification process in any metal or a alloy, where the nucleus is formed with a cluster of atoms in the molten metal. So you can see here, so whenever we talk about a nucleation, so as I said, there should be a, a cluster or a number of atoms which are going to get attracted and they are going to form a cluster of atoms. Okay, so once the radius of this cluster of atoms reaches to a critical one, then they will go further. Okay, if not, they will again dissolve and they will again try to form that cluster until they reach to the critical radius. So what exactly this critical radius is? Okay, so how this critical radius is going to play an important role, so it depends on the type of nucleation. Okay, that is, so we have one homogeneous nucleation and a heterogeneous nucleation. So means depending upon this type of nucleation, the critical radius and the amount of energy required to form this critical radius differs from one process to the other. So now we'll move on with the first type of nucleation. Okay, that is a homogeneous nucleation. So homogeneous nucleation is the nucleation which is going to occur without any help of impurity or without any help of external aid. So that is what we call it as a homogeneous nucleation. So normally this type of nucleation is going to occur in a pure liquid metals. Okay, so as I said, so the cluster of atoms, so which combine together to form a nuclei, and that nuclei will further grow. So in order to grow into further things, so that nuclei has to reach to a critical radius. So how to calculate this critical radius? Okay, so what is the criteria? So that we'll see now. So in order to do consider, or in order to calculate that critical radius, so we need to understand, so there whenever the liquid freezes into the solid, it liberates some latent heat of energy, or so the liquid when freezes to the solid, the temperature has to come down. Okay, so it liberates some heat in the form of a latent heat. So that one we indicate with the delta FV. Okay, so that one is given by minus 4 by 3 pi r cube delta G. So now here what exactly this 4 by 3 pi r cube is? So the volume of atoms. So here a cluster of atoms, we are going to assume it as a spherical one. Okay, so the delta G is nothing but the latent heat, and the negative sign indicates there is a liberation of the latent heat. Okay, so means when a liquid freezes to the solid, it liberates some amount of latent heat. So that is given by minus 4 by 3 pi r cube. And whenever there is a liquid freezes into the solid, there is a formation of a new surface. Means it requires some energy to be invested to form a new surface. Okay, so that is given by delta Fs will be equal to 4 pi r square gamma. So pi r square is nothing but a surface. Okay, so gamma is nothing but a surface energy. Okay, so 4 pi r square gamma is the amount of energy required in order to form a new surface. Okay, so here the plus symbol indicates the heat is absorbed, or we need to invest this energy in order to form a new surface. Okay, so here this whatever delta Fv is the amount of energy which is liberated, and delta Fs is nothing but a amount of energy which is absorbed. Okay, so here it is lost and here it is gained. Okay, so where combining these two, okay, that is so the um, energy which is liberated and the energy which is combined, so the change in the internal energy should be equal to the 0. So how exactly we're going to take it that one? So the total energy, okay, that is delta F will be equal to the summation of delta Fv and delta Fs. Okay, so we substituting 1 and 2 will get minus 4 by 3 pi r cube delta G plus 4 pi r square gamma. So in order to get that the total energy, okay, so as I said, so delta Gs, that is a surface energy, is a 4 pi r square gamma, which is in a positive. Positive means it should be absorbed. It should be absorbed, or it should be invested to form a new surface. And if you say 4 by 3 pi r cube, that is the amount of energy which is liberated. So it is in the negative sign. The change in that energy, okay, the delta G is given by like this. So it reaches to a maximum value, then it suddenly drops down. So this whatever the critical free energy, so is also given with the radius, that is a critical radius. So in order to calculate the critical radius, the summation, okay, the summation of these energies, that is the surface energy and the volume energy, okay, that is volumetric free energy, should be equal to the 0. So how exactly we're going to get that 0 is, so we'll take that one, okay, the differentiation of the free energy should be equal to the 0, or else d by dr in the bracket minus 4 by 3 pi r cube delta G plus 4 by 4 pi r square gamma should be equal to the 0. By differentiating this one with respect to the r and equating to the 0, so we'll get critical radius is equal to 2 gamma divided by delta G. Means for a particular and pure metal or an alloy, so this gamma is a constant. This gamma is a constant, and the free energy we can calculate. So by substituting this one, so easily we can calculate what is the R star. Now what is the critical free energy which you are going to get? So by substituting this R star in the equation number 3, so we'll get this delta G, okay, or delta F will be equal to 16 pi gamma cube divided by 3 delta G square. Okay, so this is known as a activation energy. Means so in order to form this critical radius, okay, that is to start the nucleation in a pure metal, okay, so the energy which we require or which we need to supply is the activation energy is given by 16 pi gamma cube divided by 3 delta G square. Okay, means so until the cluster of atoms which are going to come together, if they are not going to reach to this critical radius, then they will not grow further. Okay, so in order to have that nucleation to grow further, so it has to reach this R star, and we need to supply this activation energy. Okay, that is a activation energy which is required for a further growth of the nucleus. So that is exactly we are going to say about a homogeneous nucleation. So homogeneous nucleation is a nucleation so without an aid of external sources or a impurity. Okay, so this is going to form with the help of a liberation of a latent heat and a absorption of a surface energy. So in order to calculate that critical radius, so we need to differentiate that delta total free energy equating to the 0, and we are going to calculate. Okay, so the next one is a heterogeneous nucleation. So heterogeneous nucleation is the nucleation which is going to occur with the help of a impurity or with the help of a external aid, or we can call it as that one as a substrata. So whenever a liquid droplet is going to adhere to any of the impurity or the surface of the mold. Okay, so theta c is a contact angle, and here the L stands for a liquid, G stands for a gaseous, and S stands for a solid. So you can see, okay, the surface. Okay, so gamma SL means it is the surface or a boundary which separates a liquid with respect to the solid, and here it is solid with respect to the gas, and here liquid with respect to the gas, and this theta c should be, or the contact angle should be less than 90 degree. So we can say here interfacial tension between the solid and a gas, as the suffix stands for a liquid, solid, and a gaseous form. So in order to have a heterogeneous nucleation which is favorable in any a mold, okay, so which are provided with the impurity, the contact angle should be less than 90 degree. So you can see here the condition which is favorable is a theta which is less than 90 degree. So when theta c is equal to 180 or in between 90 to 180, so these two conditions are not favorable for a heterogeneous nucleation. So heterogeneous nucleation, so the surface should be wetted properly. Okay, so then only the contact angle will be less than 90 degree. Okay, so the best example for a heterogeneous nucleation is a cloud seeding. Okay, so normally in order to get a rain, okay, so artificially they do cloud seeding, okay, with the spraying of AgIO2, so which is going to form on the clouds, and it condenses the water, then the rain is going to take place. Okay, so once we understand what are the different types of nucleation, okay, which are going to occur in a pure metal, that is a homogeneous nucleation, and in an alloy which is called as a heterogeneous nucleation. So we can understand what are the different types of grains which we are going to get it. So when we have these type of nucleation in a casting, okay, or a cast structure. So here, so we are going to have a columnar grains, equiaxis grains, and a columnar and equiaxis grains, means three types of grain structures. So how exactly we are going to get a columnar or a equiaxis or a mixture of these things? So it again depends on the type of a nucleation, so which you are going to, which is going to occur in a molten metal. So if there is a columnar grain which are going to present is occurs where nucleation sites are absent at the center of a mold, means the nucleation will start at the mold wall. Okay, so this is something like a heterogeneous nucleation, then the grains starts grow in this direction. Okay, the same thing here. Okay, the nucleation starts at the mold wall, okay, and the grain starts in this direction, means when these two grains which are growing in the opposite direction, okay, come and intersect here, then the growth of the grains is going to stop, and the same thing applies at the bottom also. Okay, so here the grains or the nucleation is going to start at the mold wall, that is a heterogeneous, means the nucleation is going to start with the help of a mold wall. Okay, so then again it grows in this direction, that is opposite to the heat flow. Heat flows in this direction, and the grain grows in a opposite direction. Okay, so that's how exactly we can understand. Here also the heat goes in a bottom direction and the grain grows in a opposite direction, that is a upward. So when these grains intersect, okay, or encounter, so then the growth of the grain is going to stop. Then next is the equiaxed grains. You can see it here. Okay, so means where there are number of nucleation sites throughout the mold and sudden cooling. So this is something like a homogeneous nucleation. So there are number of nucleation sites which are going to form. So each and everywhere, and sudden cooling of that one, so will not allow the grains to grow, and they will freeze at that moment, forming a fine grain size. So fine grain size, we will be having a higher strength. So whenever we need a metals with a higher strength, so then we are going to control these number of nucleation sites, and by cooling it suddenly to the room temperature, so we can have fine grains and equiaxed ones, okay, which are of same size. Okay, so next is a mixture of columnar and equiaxed grains. So how exactly the solidification begins like a pure metal and ends like an alloy. So the nucleation sites are going to start at the mid of the mold cavity also, and even at the mold wall also. So whenever they start at the mold wall, okay, they grow like a columnar, okay, and the nucleation sites which are present at the center will form it to the equiaxed grains. So solidification starts from the mold wall before they grow. Nucleation starts at the center. Means so the nucleation is going to occur all the round at a time. Okay, so means at the mold cavity as well at the center. So when these grains, equiaxed and columnar, which are going to encounter each other, so then the solidification of that one is going to freeze, and we are going to get a mixture of equiaxed and columnar grains. Okay, so you can see it here. Okay, the way in which we are going to get the different types of grains. So now how exactly we can control the type of grains which you are going to get it in a casting. Okay, so these things depends on the pouring temperature, so mass of the metal, and a mold material and its thermal conductivity, and composition of the wall. Okay, so means so these all these things are going to control the type of grains which you are going to get it on the in a mold cavity. Okay, so grain refinement, the pouring temperature should be less, okay, and it should freeze to the room temperature suddenly. Then we are going to get a fine size. So mass of the metal also. So whenever we are going to pour a large amount of metal, then there is no time for a solidification. Okay, so then we can get a fine grain size. And mold material and its thermal conductivity, if the mold material, okay, it is having a high thermal conductivity, the heat flows readily, and the grains will not grow into a larger one. Okay, even the composition of the alloy also. So if you are going to have any intermediate or hard particle which are present in that one, then it will lead to the heterogeneous nucleation, and the number of nucleation sites will be more, and that leads to the equiaxed grains also. Okay, so like that so each of the factors, okay, like a pouring or a mass or a mold or a composition, are going to act and or affect the type of a grain which you are going to get it on the casting structures.